What's up, beautiful image bearers? It's me, CA3, and today we're taking a look at Psalm 27 and 1 through 4. David starts off by saying the Lord is my light, and what that means is the light of life, the light of instruction, as in contrast to darkness, basically. Not only was David saying that God is his light, as in the entire light that illuminates his life, but also he's light in the sense of how to live, how to do things. He was the one who's able to illuminate the dark paths that a lot of times David found himself on when he was on the run from enemies and folks were trying to kill him. But not only is he my light, David says he's my salvation, my deliverance, my rescue, my safety. And so considering these things, David says, whom shall I fear? And that word fear means to stand in awe of, to revere, respect, to even inspire reverence or godly fear of awe. And when you think about it, David can ask this question confidently because, as we know, the first commandment God gives to Moses is that I am the Lord your God and you shall have no other gods before me. God is a jealous God in that he will not allow anybody else or anything else to take his place. So these enemies that are propping themselves up against David to the point of trying to give awe or fear on the same level as God, Yahweh ain't having it. And this is even reminiscent to me of Psalm 23 when he says that he does all of the things he does for his name's sake. Basically, God will not be put to shame. But David goes on to say the Lord is the defense of my life, which comes from the Hebrew word meaning refuge, place of safety, protection, stronghold. And when he says of my life, not just his living, but also this word implies both maintenance and sustenance, as in this is an ongoing thing that God continues to be the defense, not just when we need him to, but he's always maintaining us, sustaining us, and keeping us. So in light of that revelation, he says, whom shall I dread? To be in awe. He says, when the evildoers came, when they approached me, when they tried to even get close to me, when they came upon me to devour me, as in to slay or to destroy or to completely eradicate and wipe him out. As I said before, David had a history of various enemies who wanted him dead, all the way from the days of Goliath to the Philistines, the Assyrians, neighboring nations when he was king. When all of these people came upon him to try and destroy his flesh, his body, he says, my adversaries and my enemies, they stumbled. And be clear, this isn't just they tried to approach and they tripped over a twig or a branch or something. This is not a clumsy word that's being used here. The word actually connotes the idea of being caused to stumble, to actually bring injury or ruin to overthrow, to make feeble, make weak. So essentially what David is saying is every time they tried to come and take him out, God caused them to stumble. God brought ruin to the same folks who tried to thwart God's plans by taking out David and Israel, because God protects his purpose for his people. But it says they stumbled and they fell, and that fail is to fall violently, as in death, to fall short, to even waste away. David goes on to say, though a host, an army encampment, though they encamp against me, they lay siege against me. He says, my heart, that word heart meaning mind, knowledge, inclination, determination, morals, even the seat of courage. He says, my heart will not fear. And that fear is the same word as used earlier. David says that, look, even though it looks bad, my mind stays on God. I'm going to stick to the knowledge I have of God. I'm going to incline my spirit toward God instead of turning away to my own devices. I'm determined to stay focused on God. He makes it clear that his morals will not change. His standards and living righteously won't change just because he's in fear of imminent danger or death. Instead, he's going to view his heart as a seat of courage. And he's going to place that courage rightfully in God, who's able to save him. He goes on further to say, though war arose against me in spite of this. And what I found interesting was the word this is actually a word in Hebrew, Ithiel, I-T-H-I-E-L. And it's a word that means God is with me. So essentially he's saying, look, I know what it looks like, but in spite of it, God is with me. And because of that, he can be confident. He can feel safe, careless. He can trust in God. He can have boldness because God is with him. But instead of focusing all his attention on the negative, he says, one thing I have asked, I've begged, I've inquired, I've consulted with God. One thing I have asked from the Lord, that I shall seek. And that seek word is to seek, to find, to secure, to seek the face of. David makes it clear here that in the midst of calamity and trouble, the most important thing one can do is to focus their attention on God. He's seeking the Lord. Why? He says that I may dwell, that I may remain, sit, abide in the house of the Lord. And this house is the household of God. It's the dwelling place of God. And he says that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all, in totality, the whole of the days, as in his lifetime, all the days of my life. And the word life here is actually the same Hebrew word that's used earlier when he says he is the defense of my life. So once again, implying maintenance and sustenance by God. But he finishes saying to behold the beauty of the Lord. To behold as in to perceive, to see as a seer in an ecstatic state. So basically it implies that there is awe at what is being seen. And this is actually in direct contrast to the enemies David faced, who were trying to induce a godlike awe and fear in David. But this word behold that David uses here actually places awe in its proper place, which is awing at the glory of God. He says to behold the beauty, the delightful, pleasant, kind nature of the Lord, and to meditate, as in to consider, to look for, and to seek in his temple. And this temple, of course, is the palace of God as King, the heavenly temple, God's sanctuary. So what does this say to us today? Ultimately, at the end of the day, we can look at situations like this and much of the Psalms where David shows us that even though the reality of trouble in this life is a very real thing, we don't ever have to really be afraid, because God always comes through for his people. He makes everything work out for his glory and for our good. But the thing to note is that God and how he chooses to come through us may look different than what we think it should look like, but that doesn't make him any less faithful. Trust in the Lord and lean not on your own understanding. He will guide your path and he will strengthen your heart. That's all I got for you today. God bless you. I love you, and peace.